Content warning. The Wards of the State podcast may contain material that may be harmful or traumatizing to some audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, Lightshiners. Welcome back to another enthralling episode of Wards of the State. We are counting up, y'all. We're almost on our official 100th episode, and I am so excited. This is 3.5 years, almost like 4 years in the making. We've been sharing all of these stories, and I was talking to my assistant the other day, and I was just like, man, like we've had slowed down on people who want to share. So speaking of that, if you guys want to share your story, make sure you guys send us an email. There's a link in all of my social media bios. Also, there's a link in the show notes here to sign up for the show. We would love for you guys to share. The show can only continue with more people sharing their experiences. I kind of guess like that's like a dead end business model. Like I can only continue to go as long as people share. So if you guys have been noticing, we've been having like 2 weeks or 3 weeks in between episodes. It's just because, you know, it's the holiday season, springtime, people getting outside and getting ready for Easter and things like that. So we've kind of slowed down a little bit, but if you guys send more requests, we can definitely have our team go through those requests, and then we will have more episodes for you. And if you have someone in mind that you think would be great on the show, send it to them as well. They may not know that they can share their story. So yeah, speaking of that, make sure you guys are also leaving a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, subscribing to us on Spotify, and like I've been reminding you guys, we're now live on YouTube. So every time I record, you can actually watch the raw podcast live, and the video editions are also, the edited video editions also go up the same day on YouTube. Other announcements, we did have our first book tour, guys, in Las Vegas. It was really great. We had some friends and family fly out. We had the book tour. We were at a nice little bookstore in Henderson, Nevada. We also just spent the day. We went to a crab boil. Oh, it was so good. We had a crab boil. The team, Carrie was there, Laura was there, my friend Zita, and of course, my husband came. And then we went to this brunch place on Sunday. It was absolutely amazing. So the first stop, I would say, was successful. We didn't sell no books, but that's okay because sometimes it's just about getting the experience. It's just about getting the experience. And I didn't mind because it was Las Vegas. So we drove there from my house in Phoenix. So I didn't have to invest too much money in flights and stuff. But our next booking is going to be in Portland, I believe, May 11th or 10th. Check the bio, y'all. Can y'all show up, please? Because I need y'all to show up. Okay, we have hundreds of thousands of listeners, and I'm doing this big book tour, and I don't mind doing it, but it's even free. You ain't even gotta pay. And then we also have Seattle on May 12th. So check the links in my bio if you're in the Portland and Seattle area. And last announcement is both of my memoirs are available everywhere books are sold. So my second book, Ward of the State, Abort the Adoption, officially launched on Amazon on March 23rd. You guys can grab the physical and the ebook copy on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and any e-reading devices. And if you've already read it, can y'all leave me some comments? Thank you. I appreciate it. So those are all the housekeeping, guys. There's so much going on and not a lot going on. Everything like kind of came up and then kind of went down. So I'm kind of happy because I'm tired, but we're going to continue with this show. And speaking of the show, I'm excited to introduce you guys to our next guest, Dr. Cree. Hey, Dr. Cree, how are you?
Good morning. Hello. I love your energy, Karlos. I am absolutely a big fan. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. That's why listen, I got my coffee. And I pay my bills. My bills are paid. So life is great. Okay. I'm finna pickle some of my homegrown cucumbers.
Pickle?
So 2 years ago, so we just got our house a year ago, and I was like, listen, it's going down because I already knew them prices, and I already learned through COVID. So during COVID, we learned like how to plant and pickle and stuff. But we lived in Seattle, and it was like in a condo, so we didn't have space. But now we have this huge backyard with a garden, and we grow our potatoes, our tomatoes, our collard greens, our potatoes. We got dill, all types of herbs, mint. And yeah, so then we use those to pickle, and then I have a whole pantry just full of pickles and pickled vegetables. And because when it goes down, I ain't gonna have a lot of money, but I got some jars. I'll barter. I'll give me a chicken. I'll give you 2 jars of pickles. Okay.
And you have some eggs over there. You know how the price of eggs.
Listen, so unfortunately we moved into an HOA, so we can't have chickens. But I was looking at the HOA because listen, I'm a foster child. Never tell me no. Okay.
Okay.
Don't don't tell me no, because I'm gonna find. So in the HOA it says we cannot have chicken. It don't say nothing about no quails. So I said, hey, I'm gonna get some quails. Can we approve it? And they're like, well, there's no in the. They tried to send me the section. I said, It says chickens.
See, I wouldn't have asked.
It
I
said
would have just
chicken.
done it
Listen, I usually don't, but this HOA they are. If you got a
on it.
weed sticking up, they'll send you a picture and be
Ooh,
like, that's $75.
ooh,
So,
let me live. Let me live.
but no, it's really in a nice neighborhood. So I ain't gonna complain too much. That's why we picked it. I was like, it's the HOA, but we have a really nice space, really nice
I
house, really
love
nice neighborhood.
that.
But Dr. Cree, enough about me. How are you?
Listen, I am feeling amazing. Had some great meetings this morning, and I'm just happy to be here. And I was saying earlier, for those of you that are listening, I just love your page, the information that we're receiving. And I didn't know about the other side of foster care, which is adoption, which is kind of the crown jewel, what everyone is looking forward to. Please adopt me, take me out of the system. And so I have just learned so much from you and the education. And I'm like, listen, I think one day you had your hair laid, and I said, I have to be on this show. A, I have an amazing story to tell that I think would resonate with a lot of your listeners. But B, I am just a fan of you and I just love this energy. And one of the things that I really, at my foundation, my core is joy. And people
Yes.
always ask, you've been through so much. How do you smile like this? And
Because
when I
what
see
else
you
can I go through? What
you
else?
did I think you did a dance on one of your Instagram videos. And I said, that's it right there. You're going to dance through the pain. You're going to laugh through the hurt, and you're going to come out on the other side. And you have turned your story into something that is triumphant and strengthening and happy and joyful. And I vibe with that. So I'm
I
just so
love
happy to
that.
be here with you and be able to share my story and also to sharing these laughs. This is just
Right?
amazing
No, so
energy.
a
So
lot
yeah.
of people don't understand the hair. So I literally didn't know how to do my hair. My white parents just buzz cut it. So the journey, if you actually look through on my personal page, I have the life of Carlos, and I have like all of my hairstyles that I've had
Yep.
over the last 2 years. And I don't really talk a lot because it's still something that's like still personal to me. But I do take care of my hair because it was never taken care of, and I had to
Right.
learn how to do it. So like now that I know how to do it and I know how to wrap it, like the first time I got a silk press, I cried in the mirror. I because it looked great. And she explained, she's like, you gotta comb it around. And I was like, okay.
Ooh.
And I literally just sat there and I was like crying. I was like trying to hold it and I was just bawling. My husband was like, we'll figure it out. So
Yeah.
we had like four hands. But then I
I
learned
still
the pen,
struggle.
then I learned the penning method.
In it.
And then I was, so now I'm just like, but I think that's also just like, that's about adoption and foster care trauma. There was something that I didn't learn as I needed as a child that literally like it was a part of me and I should have learned that.
Yeah.
But let's start off with your story. How did you enter the external child welfare system as a child?
Officially, I have two brothers. So we entered the foster care system when I think I was 11 years old. But when I think about these stories, we should have entered way before then. There was so much violence and drug addiction and abuse that was happening that no one knew about. Right.
Where are you from?
So I'm from Los Angeles,
Okay,
California.
okay,
My
LA.
parents are from Los Angeles, California. And um I remember my one of my youngest memories is really of one of violence, right? Like I witnessed my mother doing crack cocaine and
Mm,
didn't have a babysitter or someone to drop us off, so we're sitting there watching what's going on. My father was very abusive, he was an alcoholic, and so there was just a lot of violence in the home. And so I was actually quite surprised that it took us so long for someone to find out what happened. And my brother had gotten a beating really bad and he had bruises all over his body, and I talk a little bit about this on my Instagram. And he had went to school that day. One of the PE teachers, I guess he was changing his clothes, saw that he had bruises all over the body, and they showed up at our house, and they took all three of us, and we never returned.
mm,
But honestly, it should have happened years prior to that. It was just really bad. So the things that I've seen, I mean, part of our punishment was that he would, my father specifically, would starve us. If somebody acted up, somebody did something he didn't like, we just wouldn't have dinner for the day. And so I have a thing around like food insecurity with children, and because you just never know where they're coming from. I used to run to school to get breakfast and made sure I
mm.
ate all of my lunch because I just wasn't sure if we were going to have dinner in the evening. So yeah, so it was pretty traumatic. And sometimes when I think about the stories and all the things that I went through, I'm just blessed to be here.
No, absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't understand the connection between like food insecurity and child neglect. And a lot of folks also, like you were sharing, I don't know. I look back, I like how you said when you started off, like you should have been removed earlier, because when I look back at my story, I guess I should have too. Like literally, my mom shouldn't even have children. Like she was a foster child herself. She was definitely
Thank
too
you.
young to have four kids under 21. Um, but then I look back on my story, I'm like, yeah, man, like that definitely should have happened a lot like earlier. Do you think that with addiction, right, especially in large cities like LA and Detroit, we understand, especially in this 80s or 80s and 90s, the war on drugs, do you think that if we had offered resources to our parents who are going through that, do you think that that would have made any difference in us going into the system? Or what is your opinion on that? Because I feel like a lot of folks, when we talk about our experiences, especially with our birth parents, are like, well, they were crackheads. But why were they crackheads? Right.
That's a
And
great question. One that I've never really given a lot of thought of, so I'm just gonna riff a little bit. When I was much younger, my mom was a loving mom. She was there, she had a job, she was a bus driver, she went to work, right? Like she was a terrific, wonderful mother. And she got a hold of crack cocaine somewhere or another. The rumors are out there about how it happened. And things started slowly dwindling. She didn't have a job anymore. She stopped going to work. And then it became a lifestyle, right? It
hmm
became a lifestyle. Who was she hanging out with? Who was the company that we were keeping? We moved several times during that time. And again, I'm not sure about why we moved or what happened, but thinking back, there must have been some situations that had us moving as often as we did.
hmm
Um, my mom comes from a good family.
mm.
It comes from a really good family where there were interventions. And I think the lifestyle held onto her so strongly because she was seeking something else that was prior to my existence. She was seeking acceptance. She was seeking love. She was seeking to numb the pain that existed far beyond me before she
It's
had children.
It's so funny that you said that because our stories like flipped. My dad was more like your mom's story, where he came from a great family. My dad's side, like they were old school Motown. My grandfather worked at Ford his whole life, like it's traditional story, right? My dad was raised in a nice middle class black home with like four siblings. He had a set of twin sisters, but he just chose the streets where he met my mom, who came from like a bad household, right? And it's just like, why did you choose that lifestyle? But it's like you said, it grabs hold of people. Especially I feel in the 80s and 90s, and then we had rap, and we had more technology, more ways to communicate. And I think that that kind of exasperated these people wanted to like live that life, right? But
Mhm.
what they didn't see is, and this is what I think that it is our jobs as millennials, is that we have the opportunity to kind of break that generational curse of like, bitch, I'm not gonna listen, y'all had normal lives until you started doing drugs, so we
I'll stay far away from it because what I think is that there's addiction in our DNA. Both
absolutely.
my mother and father were addicted. And so I always say I have an addictive personality, right?
hmm
Whether it's music, I will listen to one song 27 times, right? And you can't tell me that it's not the best song ever. And so I stay so far away from anything that could cause harm to my life because I don't want to fall victim to
too.
the things that
I'll
they
be
fell
honest,
victim to.
our last year of college, my last year of college, I said it was the last semester, and I was like, I can got through college. I did my job. I said, I want to try everything.
Not everything.
Well, not
Not
any,
everything.
nothing with it, nothing with needles. But like, cause all my like nothing with needles. I knew I wasn't that crazy. Wasn't that adventurous. I'm adventurous. I ain't that adventurous. And what I recognize is that like, we would just do like blow or like any other, regular like club drug, and they would be high, and I'd be like, I don't feel nothing. And then I
Mm.
would have to like do like four times this. And I was like, oh. And that's why I was like, see, this is how they got trapped into it. And I do believe that addiction is generational. Because my great grandmother has alcohol addiction, drug addiction, grandmother, my mother, my like on both sides, right? Well, not on both sides. My dad's side don't really have addiction, but my mom's side does. So it is something. And that year what I learned is that it doesn't add more fun. It really don't. It actually adds more problems because then you got people peeing and vomiting and all this other stuff in your cars, and you just bought your Mercedes. And this girl, I had just bought my Mercedes, and my friend peed on my seat in the McDonald's line, and I was upset, but it was my fault. It was my fault. But I just think it's something about acknowledging, because my siblings also went through the same thing, and my sister died of her addiction, and she took my mother with her, right? So it's like, if you know this about yourself and your family history, you should stay very far away from it. Um,
Hmm.
and I kind of want to talk to you as a doctor, because I just did. I don't know if you saw my speech at the NAAC. What is it? Not the NAACP. Yeah, National Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Yes, I did a keynote there, and I talked about psychologists overprescribing medications to foster youth and how that has an effect. Because honestly, I was on Adderall, Risperdal, Ritalin, Robutin all at the same time. As an adult, I'm like, girl, that's meth. Like, they had you.
Doped up.
So I was like, it now makes sense that in college, I'm like, I have a high tolerance. You've been doing
Mhm.
uppers your whole childhood.
Right, right.
Uppers, lowers, all types of, all of them, right? And this has a long time mental effect. It also has like an effect on job career opportunities in the future. And we still don't know the long-term effects of all of these. So I think it's important for us to talk about addiction as we're having these conversations. So you and your family went into foster care. Did they keep your sibling? And there was three of you or four of you?
There were three.
There were
So
three
I'm
of
the
you.
middle, the only girl. I have two brothers, an older brother and a younger brother. My older brother actually passed away from addiction last year in June. So this is very recent and very fresh. And we just took two very different paths. And so I'm
Mm.
sure we'll chat about that. So there's three of us total.
And when you entered the foster care system, did you guys stay together or did they separate you guys?
For the most part, we stayed together.
That's good.
Yeah, it is good. Well, my little brother was much smaller than I was. If I was about 11, he must have been 5 or 6.
Oh,
And I
poor
just was not
baby.
going to let my baby go. Yeah, I mean, that's all he knew. And I would not let him go. And my older brother, he had behavioral issues. And so they kept us together for the first two placements. And then he went off to a separate home. But then family stuff was happening. My grandmother had my uncle was living in a property under my grandmother's name, and she said, "You better take my babies because you had to have enough space for every child to have a bed in order to be considered right,
Mm-hmm.
like a viable living space. And if you were of opposite sex, you had to have a separate room. So it makes it really challenging because we're three
And then
three
they don't
kids.
offer, kinship anything. If well, some states have started offering them like a fourth or half of what they offer foster parents, but most states don't offer anything.
Yeah.
They're just like,
Well,
hey,
we
this is your kin.
Right. Yeah. Well, our kinship care, they got something, but we didn't see it. We didn't see any of that. And
Mm.
so I remember the visits from the social workers and coming over and saying, is everything okay? Was everything? But it was a 15-minute check-in, and half the time we were lying, right? Because, and I'm just going to be honest because the living circumstances where we were not ideal. We weren't being
Mm.
cared for in a way that felt very loving. And so we would find ourselves back at our grandmother's house and sleeping on the floor for years and on the couch for years because that we just felt more comfortable there,
And
even
where
though we
was
had
your
our space.
mom and dad during all of this? Did TPR happen? Were they trying to work their family plan? Were they were
No,
just out on the
my mom,
streets?
my mom was in the street. So let me just tell you the quick story, and you're gonna it's so many things. So my father was extremely abusive. I call this story like the Great Escape. He
Hmm.
was on something, and he was like the Hulk. I mean, he threw somebody out the window. I just remember seeing all of this as a kid. We locked ourselves in a room, and we just didn't look up. He was in a drunken stupor. My mom came back, like throwing rocks at my window. Right. So she's like, "You got to get out the house." So I scoop up my little brother, who is a baby at the time. I mean, in a crib, right? And I tell my older brother, and we sneak out the house terrified because if my father woke up from his drunken stupor, we would have been done for. So
Hmm.
we get out the house, and I call that the Great Escape. We got in a cab, boom, we left, went to a hotel room, and we stayed there for a couple of nights. My mom, I guess, got some courage and called her mom and was like, "Hey, this is the situation." So we went to my grandmother's house after that. Once we were safe and secure there, my mom went on a binge. She
Mm.
was in and out of the house for years. And my grandmother finally told me that she told her, "You can't keep doing this. If you're gonna come, if you're gonna stay, stay. But if
Stay.
you're gonna go, you gotta go." Because she was just in and out. And so we stayed from my grandmother for 3 or 4 years without anybody saying anything. My mom, back in the day, you would write a little note on a piece of paper saying, "I give my
Yep.
mom, the ability to take care of my kids and take care of what enroll us in school, do the medical stuff,
You
etc.
can still do that today. You can still do
See,
that today. That's called a unregulated custody transfer.
and that's what happened, and it was on a piece of. I remember reading it, and your heart just breaks that your mom is like saying, "I can't take care of them." So we stayed with my grandmother, no questions asked. Odd story. My dad started then dating my mom's uncle's ex-wife. Anyways, it got
Wow.
follow
Okay.
me, right? Started dating her and she had children. And so they were at my dad's house hanging out. And I'm like, hey, what about us? Like, you're taking care of these kids, my cousins whom I love to death, right? I just love them. But you're taking care of these kids. What about us? So finally he came and picked us up. And there were 7 of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Inglewood. We rotated sleeping on the futon.
Oh,
I lived out of a cardboard box for years.
That
I
sounds
never
like
had a
that sounds
dress.
like. Are you familiar with the Jenkins family on TikTok?
No.
Is this black guy, this black dad, and he has this white wife. They're not married, and they have 5 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment, and the kids be sleeping in like the refrigerator. No, I'm not. Just look them up on TikTok.
That's how it felt.
That's
That's
what
how
it
it
sounds.
felt. And we would just rotate, the girls would sleep on the futon one night and the boys would sleep on the futon. We made pallets. I mean, I didn't have a bedroom for years. I didn't have a bed for many, many, many years. And that's when a lot of the abuse happened, right? My mother was gone and my father was still drunk. The woman that he was dating, which is my aunt by marriage of some sort, was also on drugs, right? Stealing things from the house. Christmas was gone. I mean, there were so many
Not
things.
Christmas was gone.
Baby, we had Christmas, the next day them toys were gone.
Dang.
They were gone, pawned, right? I remember one time she wanted some money and she made me take back, we would steal from Kmart. Please don't come after me, Kmart. We would steal from Kmart. We would find receipts in the parking. Why do I know this? We would find receipts in the parking lot, go find those items in the store.
Why did we do the
then
same
return
thing?
them.
Yep, because it's technically, is it really?
Yes, because we never bought those items.
And I never took any items out the store either.
But we were getting compensated for them. That is so funny. But why did I know that? Why did I know how to be so savvy? And we did all of that. And I seen all of that. And I witnessed all of that. And I was part of all of that. So that's when a lot of the abuse happened within those couple of years where there were, spankings and beatings and all kinds of things happening. And that's when we officially got taken.
Listen, that savviness comes in hand though when you hit rough times. Like one thing that I use from my childhood, my mom would always do is she would call the fast food places and make a complaint. And she would similar thing. She would go and find somebody's receipt at McDonald's and then be like, "Oh, I just came in and I had a whatever was on the receipt." And she was like, "I'm making it a complaint." And then they would write her name on a list, and you just go in and if you could eat every day, just pick a different restaurant and eat
just
for free
rotate.
And I used to, when I was homeless, I did that shoot. And then I learned that on the receipts, especially at Chick-fil-A, you can just write down like 5 numbers and they'll give you a free Chick-fil-A sandwich because it's
That
like
is so funny.
it was
See,
like
we
you
did
did
that
the
with
survey.
pizza. Yeah, the pizza wasn't hot, or whatever. We would get double of whatever it is that we need.
The hood hacks of struggle. So you guys go through all of this, and then you get enter foster care. And I'm assuming you said your parents didn't even do their parental plans. So
no, my mom was like MIA, like couldn't even find her. There were times when we were driving and there might have been a sighting, in several years. And the only time I saw her after that, mind you, she probably left when I was like 9. The only time I saw her after that when I was like maybe 14 or 15, and she had a medical scare. And she came to the house. At that point, my grandmother had custody of us, and we were living in Orange County, really nice, ritzy area. Nobody knew what we were going through. She was gifted a home, hallelujah, right? That could, hold all of us. And she came over because she had this medical scare. And I remember I had an attitude, where have you been? Who are you? And that time I'm growing up as a woman, and I need my mom. And I just remember she said that she would be here after school, and she left. I didn't see her again. I didn't hear from her again until she wrote me a letter my junior year in college when she was in prison.
Is that where she is now? Still in prison?
No, she's passed. She passed the week before I had my oldest son.
Oh wow.
I mean, the story is so amazing. I think I made a comment on one of your posts about that. It's like you finally get this, kind of opportunity to develop a relationship. And she was so excited for it. So like, how was I as a baby? How was I as a child? Did you love me? And all the things. And she was excited to be a grandmother. And that was just stripped away from me a week before my baby boy was born. So that is still something that I'm dealing with, because I'm like, why is that the case? This was her redemption. This was my opportunity to connect, and she was super, super excited about it. So yeah,
that
she
always
passed.
happens. They did, like, same thing with my mom. Like, I think that was on a post. I was just like,
Yep.
she just got her, like, she had literally just got her life together. Like, I was so proud of her. Like, she had 2 jobs. She had gotten her GED. She was dating this guy that was like pretty okay. He was just like old and just worked. And I was like, cool. She had her own place.
That's what.
And I was so proud of her. I was so proud. And I was like, how do you just gonna turn around and die? Just after
I mean,
all
God
of
has a
that.
sense of humor, right? Right.
Like, after
And I
all of
remember
that.
she didn't come to my baby shower, and I was upset. I'm like, what? Like, I don't ask much of you. I just want you to. She didn't come to my baby shower, and she sent me a box, and it had a stuffed animal in it. And when I went to foster care, like, the stuffed animals was like a thing for me, because they say, grab what you can, put it in a backpack, and you're leaving your home. Everything that I had known. So you take all the stuff, and I had 3 or 4 stuffed animals in my backpack, not a pair of drawers, nothing, just but I had my stuffies, and so when she sent me the stuffed animal, it was kind of a remembrance that I had this love at one point in time. And she also, before she passed, her roommate said she was so excited about your baby, and she said that she saw him in your dreams. And that day she went out and purchased some things for the baby, and the next day she was gone. So I believe they probably crossed paths, on his way here and on her way out. So yeah. And then, my dad, who was really responsible for like the physical, emotional, all the abuse, I'm like, he's still kicking it, and people think I'm trying to be funny, but I'm like, no, that man is evil. And the fact that he's still, I was getting ready to I'm not making a joke. I was going to say he's still walking around in this world, but he wasn't walking. Both of his legs are amputated.
Oh, well, God don't like ugly.
God don't like ugly, and you intimidated
But
people
here's the
for
thing, though.
years.
I used to feel like that because when let me tell you my little story. I reunited with my mom 10 years before she died. Maybe like 7 years before she died. My dad was in prison. Didn't really care about him too much. My mom's funeral, I get a tap on my shoulder. I turn around. My dad and I look like Siamese twins. I turn around and I was like, hey, Dad, how are you? He was like, hey, son, I haven't seen you in 20 years. Da, 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 da. That's my boy. Mind you, I'm in front of my mom and my sister's coffins. And he goes, I have some people to introduce you to. And I said, oh, okay. I'm thinking like he has a wife, maybe even a little baby. I see a 12-year-old, my brother Amir, a 10-year-old brother Josh, and then this little 6-year-old boy who looks just like me comes up and is like, hi, my name's Carlos. And I said, oh, my name's Carlos too. I was like, what's your full name, little man? And he tells me his full name. I was a junior before I got adopted. Why did my father? I just looked at my dad and I said, "You was a trifling nigga. You just raggedy." I said, "How are you?" Well, I mean, you got adopted by them white folks, so I had to pass the family name down to somebody who was gonna stay with us. I said, I couldn't even. I just. So fathers are just raggedy, and I was just like, "Why are you still here?" But she ain't. Why are you still here? But the thing is, my father, I do blame him a lot because he was supposed, like, you're the man. You were supposed to be a man. Like, man up. I understand you had to do some time, but like, you could have got yourself a real job. You didn't have to be hustling on the street. You had a girlfriend with 4 kids. 1 was yours, the 3 weren't. But hell, shit, take your son and get the fuck on if you didn't want it, right? Like, I don't understand that about specifically Black men thinking that just because they're not dating the woman that they just have to abandon their children. That's that
Carlos,
no.
that's another podcast for another time. Okay?
Right? So I'm just like, why are you still here? But then my thought process and my healing process was, my mom was taken, and I got the opportunity to see the healing. I got my answer. For some reason, God said, you got what you needed.
Yep.
And you can heal from this. My father needs to live this life in fucking hell. Like, he needs to go through all the struggle. Yes, he needs to go through all the struggle that he's going through. He looks like Michael Jackson from Thriller. Um, like he just years of alcohol and drug use. Just he swears to God he don't use drugs. I'm like, okay, buddy, keep believing that. And so that's why like maybe your dad is here just to struggle, just the
Well, no, he's
struggle.
he's passed now,
Oh, he just
right? He's
passed too.
bye.
Oh well, I was hoping that he was still here, just so he could just keep struggling.
He did suffer. He suffered quite a bit because at first they took, I think it was his toe, and then it was a foot, and then it was both of his legs. And can't nobody tell me I didn't do what I was supposed to do
What did you do?
because I helped.
Oh hell no.
Listen,
Oh hell
people
no.
don't. I
You better
know.
than me.
Listen, and there are people out here who are better than me. And so whenever somebody ever says like, "Well, you weren't," if you heard half of the things that that man did to me, and I still showed up when I needed to, and I did what I could, but when he started, 'cause I'm a grown woman, name calling me. When I told him my mom passed, oh yeah, I heard that cow passed. When I had my son, he was like, oh, I thought you had a miscarriage. The man was evil.
Oh my goodness.
But he came to my PhD for my graduation for my doctorate, but he never showed his actual face to anybody because he was in a wheelchair and apparently he was embarrassed. And it was the first time he was ever like vulnerable and said, I don't feel comfortable. And I'm thinking to myself, because you intimidated people, you tormented people for years with your size. You hit women. You abused children because you were big and bad, and God took those legs from you and humbled you and sat you down in that wheelchair. And he lived like that for years. And when I would go to his apartment, I mean, my father used to dress. I mean, late. He was prideful about his appearance, and his place was always neat. It was the opposite. It was the opposite of that during the latter years of his life. And I said, and mind you, I went through my own healing where I forgave both of them, right? Because he's got his own reasons for why he did what he did. But what I wasn't going to do is allow him to talk to me any kind of way, right? And so our relationship, he never met my children. And he died right before I moved to Dallas. He died. Listen to this. I'm silly. He died a month before, and my uncles and aunts were like, "Well, you got to do something." No, I don't. I said, he's in the middle of my move. Nobody told him to be in the middle, always trying to put the attention on himself. Yep. So I said, y'all deal with this. And nobody has any idea as to why I'm so distant from that man.
As you were telling that story, why I was picturing that Tyler Perry movie with the husband who was beating his wife, and she was like, "Would you like to get something to eat?"
That's it. That's it.
You better call Regina, Selena, whatever their name. Selena, yeah. She's not here.
Yeah, she's not here. That's it, because you need me. And I remember I was in grad school and I was broke, and he called me or something, and I was like, I could really use $50, to get some food. And he was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna send you $50. I'm like, okay, great. 10 minutes later, he calls me back. He's like, I ain't sending you goddamn money. You thought
Why?
Talk about mind games. He would be in the hospital sometimes and be like, I said, where are you? Right? Like, let me go. Well, you got to find me and click. The man is sick.
He sounds sick. So, okay.
No, seriously.
So we have the backstory with your mom and your dad. You go through college. This whole time you're still with your grandparents. So did you age out with your grandparents under kinship care?
No, see, I think kinship care stopped for us at 18. She didn't have any additional support, but so that was his grandmother.
Yeah, so you just turned 18 and now you're just an adult.
Yeah.
And did your state, California at that time, didn't have any kinship like support? Now they do. Now they once you're even one day in foster care in California, you just get the same qualifications as a kid who's been in their whole life. So I think that's a great, because there's people like you who kind of fell, not saying that you fell through the gaps, but you could have had a lot sooner if you had the resources like free college, free tuition, housing access, food access, right? Because people don't understand. Yeah, your grandma kind of was y'all's safety net, but she's a grandmother with all of these children she's taking care of. She doesn't have the resources to then support you. And I truly believe that children need to be supported into 25. I don't think the 18 kick out thing, I think that's really harmful to start on children. Because they can't even get car insurance. They can't get nothing. Just give them some stability through college, and that's what these stipends do. So how did you just do old school like loans? Did you get scholarships? How did you
Yeah.
get make your way through college?
So I was a go-getter. I knew I had a gift of it. I knew I was an excellent student. So I had that for me, and I thank God for that. So I used that to my advantage. And I always said I wanted to go to college. So I remember in eighth, ninth grade, I started doing the research. What does it take? Gathering applications. I don't want to miss a deadline. My social worker, unfortunately, I had several social workers because they switch out like the days of the week. And nobody really had clear information. And I had to keep asking. I wanted to get my license, but we couldn't afford $200-$300 for a driver's ed class. I had to keep pushing. Hey, can I get this money so I can get my license? Hey, can you give me some information about college? What do you all do? Thankfully, I did get connected with a beautiful organization called Orangewood Children's Foundation in Orange
Hmm.
County. They were extremely helpful. So I was able to attend some of their classes. And while I didn't find the information very useful, I was able to gain bucks. And when I went off to college, I had all these gift cards that I could go and like buy things with. And my grandmother did the absolute best that she could. But I went to a really expensive private school. And I'm thankful that I was ignorant. I am
Hmm.
so thankful that I was ignorant about financial aid because I would not have selected that very expensive school, but it ended up being the best
The
decision
school
for
for
me.
you. So one
Yeah.
thing that you brought up was the driver's license thing. A lot of folks don't understand that, even if you're a go-getter, you can only go so far, especially if you don't have transportation, if you don't have good busing systems in your city, right? Um, and one of the solutions is, folks, y'all know y'all can volunteer y'all's cars. I know it's a lot, but you can volunteer your car. Like, you can go. Most cities, there's foster care agencies, right? You can go, or even like the foster closets. They have programs where you can donate your car for like an hour or two, or even
Yep.
if you know a foster child, lend them your car. I have a Toro. I have a Toro fleet where I have like 3 or 4 cars on Toro, and whenever we don't have any rentals, and if I know any foster youth that needs to take driver's ed, go ahead, drive. And I have like Volvos and really secure cars, so even if you can't even crash this car, it is going to stop you even if you try. But I think that people don't understand the access, because if someone just loaned you a car for a day or two just so you can take the test, or even like a week or so, just so you can learn, and then you can have
That.
access to that, to getting your actual
Yeah.
license,
I mean,
is
think
really
about
important.
the independence, right? There's people, and you don't even have to be in foster care, but just think of like low income, underserved areas where the majority of the people around you don't drive. They rely
Hmm.
on public transportation, and now they've got Uber. We didn't have that back in the day. And so, if you don't have a reliable car, the car is not properly insured, you can't take your test, right? If you've never been behind the wheel for a consistent amount of time, you can't, test to get your driver's because you don't know what you're doing.
Doing,
And then
yep.
you can't afford two, three, $400 for a driver's education class. Who's going to get you there? So there's all these barriers to getting your driver's license. And so again, I wasn't in the worst position. I had my great aunt who would let me drive to school every day and just got that experience behind the wheel. But it was still a hurdle to try to figure,
Hmm.
I've got to get my birth certificate. I've got to do all of these things in order to obtain the driver's license. And not everybody, has the wherewithal to like figure that piece out. There's multiple pieces, and that's just one piece. Try getting to college,
Mm.
right? Figuring out like how to fill out your FAFSA, you know?
Girl, I when I went to college, it was so hard because I was technically adopted, but my parents had
Right.
abandoned me at 8 or 16. So when I was 18 in college, I had this lady at the financial, because I had applied for FAFSA. I had my Pell Grant. I had even done like one student loan, because I was working 3 jobs, but to get myself out of homelessness, as soon as I turned 18, I didn't have like first class security. So I was like, the smartest thing to do is to get an extra student loan, pay off 6 months to 9 months of your rent. That way you just know you got a home and you
Yep.
can focus on school. So that's what I did every semester. So my loans were a little bit higher for my degree, but now I look back on it, I had to survive. I had to eat, I had to have housing. And the college that I went to, I didn't want to live at their student housing. And even they were charging. So I was like, I might as well just go get an apartment.
Hmm.
But people don't understand. Like, I had this lady in fast, but she was like, "Don't you know who your parents are?" Because I had to get it's like you have to, because with FAFSA you have to have all your birth certificate, social security number, your parents' tax ID. I
Yep.
didn't have any of that. I had my
You have
birth
to get a
security, and
waiver.
I
Mhm.
didn't have nothing, so they have to give you a waiver. Then you have to write all these affidavits. Then you have to
Yep.
prove. And this lady was like, "I need you to prove to me that you're homeless. You don't look homeless."
Well, I don't look like what I've been through. Hello. Come
Hey,
on.
can I get an amen? She said, "You don't look homeless." I said, "Why would I look homeless at school?" And then she goes, "What? Prove to me you're homeless." I said, "Okay, come drive under this bridge tonight at 10 p.m.
You'll see
You
me.
see me?
This is why I do what I do. This is a perfect transition to, you know, when I first started wanting to figure out what I want to be in this world. I was like, I'm going to be an attorney because I want to give voice to the voiceless, to children who were going through similar circumstances. I hated law, didn't like it. I moved on, but then I went and got my master's degree in nonprofit management because the one thing that was really stable for me was like giving back. And I would think to myself, I don't have a pot to piss in. I don't have anything, you know, I've got some key family members that hold me down, but I am not rich by any means. But I've got resources, I've got access, I've got good looks, hallelujah. You know, I can show up with talent, you know, and so I gave of myself to people that could help them in their situations. And I just ran with that and I've been running with it ever since. And so once I got my master's in nonprofit management, I went on to get my PhD in education because everything that came back to me was that education was the catalyst, right? It helped me to change my life. Not because I felt like I knew more. It put me in room with people who were caring and loving. Yeah, that's it. It's not about learning the Excel spreadsheets and all that stuff is great. But it's about the networks. It's about the people. It's about I've got 5, 6 moms running around this world that I call mama because they have taken me in. And I thank God for having the wherewithal to open myself up to that kind of love and to not be so hardened by it. So that's what college did for me.
And here's the thing. So I got a little bachelor's degree. I ain't got no doctorate. And here's the thing. I appreciate people. I will never have a doctorate unless a school just makes me more like an honorary, because school is not my thing. Like,
right.
I have PTSD, I have ADHD. Like, I just cannot sit down and focus. I could barely get to where I got. And I was proud to where I was like, just take what you can. But when I always have imposter syndrome because now over the last 10 years I've been doing this work. I've been doing a lot of educate. Like, I educate as much as I'm an educator. I educate myself. I go to different conferences. I read different books. And some of these books are kind of like over my head. But then if I don't know something, I've always been the person. If you don't know something, find it out or find someone who does know. And when I did my last keynote in Seattle, there was 5,000 doctors. Like, everybody got alphabets after their names, just like, I don't even, MSRSP, MSRP, CDD, ABCDE. They just
FGE.
they got all of these letters. I felt so intimidated, and I went up there and I did like a 30-minute speech, and there was literally a line of doctors being like, I did not know this.
Yep.
What is this real?
Yep.
Can you send me a source? And I was like, wait, y'all are doctors. Like, how do y'all not? And I'm teaching you about psychology. How do you not know? And they're like, Karlos, we can only educate ourselves on what research gives us. And the research comes from statistics, and statistics comes from lived experience. This is why you're important, because we're reading and we're educating ourselves on y'all's experiences, so then we can use the knowledge and then our own brains to kind of come up with a system and a program to help the children. So I was like, I've never thought of it that way. And like you said, like, you don't have to have all of the things to be successful. You just have to know what you know and do what you do, and show up. And then you enter these rooms where you think that you have imposter syndrome, but in fact, you are the one you're an expert on this topic. Now, if we were talking about, like, I went to the conference, so I was invited to every session. Some of them, they were some smart people, over my head, but I was like, wow, this is beautiful that they can even listen to someone with lived experience and say, hey, this is what we're learning from you, and this is how we're going to change it. So when we come back, Dr. Cree, I want to talk about your ideas on how we can have practitioners and supportive adults design programs that can meet youth and students and children in external childcare where they are. And then we'll also have some other follow-up conversations. So we're going to take a quick break, light shiners, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, Lightshiners, to the show. Make sure you guys are leaving a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star rating and review. We haven't had any Apple Podcast reviews in a while, so make sure you guys are leaving those reviews. Also, make sure you're sharing this with all your families and friends. And I know that we are having an issue with the YouTube's live as we're recording. We're going to figure that out, but you can watch the recordings afterwards on YouTube. And share those too. Comment on there if you guys want to tag family and friends on there as well. Definitely do that. And let's see, any other updates? Any other updates? Y'all, my books are for sale. I invested $15,000 on this second book. I've only made about like 3,000 back. So y'all need to start reading. Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Turn it up.
Speaking of reading, you guys can get the books for free. I'm gonna put you on a hustle, okay? Put you on some game. You can get both books for free. All you need is a library card, okay? Get your library card, go to your local library, and then request both books. They will actually submit a request, and then they will purchase them from my publisher. So you can get them and read them. And then also, what's cool about that is that they stay in your local library. So not only can you enjoy it, but other people can enjoy it, and they can educate themselves on the foster care and adoption system. um, I think it's just brilliant. It's a brilliant idea. It's our tax dollars. We might as well use them in a way that helps indie authors like myself. So make sure you guys do that. And without further ado, I do want to get back to the conversation with Dr. Cree. Dr. Cree had me on the break, just dying laughing. Y'all better not call me ableist. Y'all better not call me because I've been trying to hide my laugh every time she's like, "Daddy, no legs." Do not cancel me, y'all. So, Dr. Cree, before the break, we were talking about how practitioners in support of adults can design programs and meet and support youth. What kind of ideas do you think can that we need to be thinking about and programs that we need to be building that can, kind of be a safety net for these children that need it?
Absolutely. I think about my own experiences and what carried me through, right? When I think about my experience versus my brother's experience, for instance, we grew up in the same home, experienced similar trauma, seen very similar things. What was the difference for my outcome versus his outcome? And I would say relationships. And if I'm talking to youth, I will say your openness and your willingness to create relationships, tend relationships, and open up about who you are, not to be embarrassed by your circumstances because it does not define you, right? Those are your parents' choices, right?
So,
And
guys, in
so
hood, what she says is mouths don't get fed. That's what she's saying. Closed mouths
talk to
don't
people.
get fed. Talk to people.
Talk to people, tell them what you need and what you're going through. I had multiple people step in where my grandmother could not, right? And so I had one mom who would take me home every day from school. And after a while, I would say, "Could you?" And she said, "If you don't stop asking me, this is
And
your
don't you
secret."
always feel like you owe
Yes.
them?
Yep.
So I've similar. You know what? And you just put it in perspective for me. I've always said, people always ask me, "How did you survive and your siblings didn't?" And I always said, "Oh, because I had people. I had certain people." But what that was relationship building. I had built relationships, and I never thought about it that way. I had built successful relationships with people, and the reason I didn't think about that is because my whole time in being adopted, they tried to diagnose me with RAD. I had RAD. I had RAD. I didn't have reactive attachment disorder. I just didn't want to attach to you because you were crazy as fuck.
I I don't with you. You know what I mean? Right?
Like,
And that's it. It's figuring out who are your people. And I'm not saying
mhm.
tell your story to everybody. Everybody doesn't have to be in your business, but as a youth, you have to be active in your seek. You have to be active in finding those people that can give you the emotional support, throw you a couple of dollars every now and then, or buy the things that you need to feel normal as a teenager or whatever the case is. And I would say for adults is to be open. I always say when I design programs, right? What your office looks like matters. I've got a PhD. You'll never see my degree on the wall because it doesn't matter. We are level. When I design my office, my desk, my back isn't to you. There's not a desk between us. It is open. I want to embrace you. I want to be with you in space together. And those are the things that matter. When I used to work in youth programs, the door was always open. Miss Lucretia, are you busy? Never. What's up, baby? You are always open. When those kids got out of school, baby, I'm roaming the floor.
And
I
and
am
there's
on the
even
floor.
deeper psychology in preparing your space to work with
Yep.
trauma because one thing that I noticed that a lot of folks when I was a kid, or even what I suggest to a lot of people who work with kids now, I say turn up, especially at schools, they have that horrendous overhead light. I was like, you gotta turn them off.
Because my eyes hurt.
Hurts. And then also for me as a kid, it feel like you're always in the spotlight. So when I'm trying to present something to you, or if you're trying to help me be vulnerable, it's easier for me to do it in a dim space because it feels a little bit softer. It feels a little bit more safe, right? Have like a little one of them little fake fog machine things with a little aroma on it. Have that going, some metal, some little jazz, but some ambiance, because then like it really will help a child. And also, like as you can see, for me, I'm color reactive. My personality, if like my friend who are beige friends, I hate going to their house. It's just like there's no personality. I get depressed in there. You come to my house, I got color everywhere.
every time.
Every room is a different color, different vibe, different theme, because I react to color. So like your environment really does matter. So I'm really great that you brought that up. And I hope that the professionals are listening, right? Y'all need to start putting some effort into your environment to where you're trying to heal. If you don't have a healing environment, how are you going to do any healing?
And it's your modes of communication. So I used to have all these different ways where folks could communicate how they're feeling. So whether it's a whiteboard with markers there, they could just come by and leave me a note. There were post-it notes always on my desk, so I would get cute little notes or something like that from young people, or like a pin board. You ever had a chalkboard where they had all the magnets on it where you can
Mm-hmm.
create sentences. So
Yep.
you just know the vibe in your area, and you always greet people by their name. You always
Mm.
greet people about this. So tips that you can have to make your environment much more welcoming for young people, because you don't know what they're going through. And the other piece of it, I would say, don't assume. I learned so much from my young people. I learned so much from my young people just by asking the questions. And I always say, stay curious, right? Because in order to make change, and I'll tell you about one of my hardest students, and I'm going to reach out to him after this. That baby didn't want to do nothing. He didn't want to do anything. Right? He would come and just fight. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to follow directions. I don't want to do well in school. I need to help my family, whatever the case is. Okay. And one day I was like, hey, I need you to go to, this particular class. I don't want to do that. And he was cussing me out, telling me every which way. I don't know, F you this, and you can't tell me, you know, bucked up and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran out and I followed him. And when we got to a place that was safe, I hugged him
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't let go. And I told him it's okay, that there's nothing you can do to me today that will ever make me not like you or not love you. And so from that point on, we changed our relationship. And I will say that you don't throw the actions of Tuesday back at them on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday's a brand new day. You deal with it in the moment. And Wednesday's a brand new day for us to show up, because we all make mistakes, adults included. The amount of times I say sorry to my children, right? I want to be the example that saying I am sorry, acknowledging,
So what
and
do you say? I had this lady on Instagram. I don't know if you follow me on Instagram. I started building
I
my
do.
Instagram platform. It was crazy, but I had this lady on Instagram, and she's foster mom, and I was, because I teach about like I'm a realist. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, foster care. I'm like, you have to be a strong person to foster traumatized children. It is hard, and that's what they're like. Well, what, you're against foster care? I'm like, no, I'm just against people just doing it for the money and not being prepared, because they end up harming children further. So this lady was like, we're talking about kicking children out of your home, and when is it appropriate and when is it not. And she was like, if they don't respect me, if they're
I saw
rude,
that.
I'm kicking. And for me, I'm just like, you're in the wrong ball game. You are playing the wrong sport if that's your expectation, because that is what's needed. These kids will disrespect you, and it's going to be over and over and over until you start to build rapport with them, so they know, one, you don't play that, and two, even if you try to play that, I'm still going to be here. It is a survival tactic to protect themselves, to push everyone away, because the people that they have tried to trust, starting with their parents, have disappointed them. So if you understand that, you're just a random lady that my social worker put me in the house with. I owe you nothing. I
Nothing.
owe you nothing. Not respect, not I'm not going to respect you, your home, or your wishes. And but what I can do is follow some rules, possibly, right? I can have a conversation with you, and if I do get, difficult, which I probably will, as a child who's gone through trauma, I'm going to need that person to be there with me. I had my one of my last foster parents, her name was Miss D, and I remember she was kind of like you, what you're explaining. Like, I used to kick holes in her wall, just like boom. The lady was the nicest lady from the first time I've been in her home. I was just reacting from the other 36 homes I was in, and also my birth homes. And I was trying to push her away because I thought that she was too good. Like, I was like, this is too good to be true. She's lying. Like, watch me. I'm gonna trick her up. I'm gonna trip her up. All right, let's see. You really nice. That lady was like, all right, Carlos, let's go to Home Depot.
Let's fix
She
this up
went and
together.
got. She went. We went and had McDonald's. We had. she taught me how to fix a wall, and she was like, "We'll just keep fixing walls." But then she
Yeah.
also said, "But it's coming out of your allowance as well. Like I'm not
Right.
paying for this, so you do get your." And that was the biggest thing. She gave us our money from foster care, like a portion of it, and she would let us spend it on toys, clothes, do rags, whatever we wanted. But then I started to connect to like, oh, I'm not gonna get what I want in the long run, and she's not going to be mean. So stop trying to push her buttons. She's going to be. She was consistent. It was consistent, and then I started to trust her, and then I just knew like, hey, she has my back, and I'm gonna follow her rules, and that's where the respect and the rule
That's
following comes in, right there.
relationship before rigor. That's it. I can't be a mentor to you. I can't teach you. Like you're looking at me like, who are you? Why am I listening to you? Why am I here? I'm so upset. I'm mad. You've got to break down all of that before you can get to, okay, now how are we going to make this world a better place? How are
Hmm.
you going to contribute to the world? You have to say, no, I am here with you through it all, thick
Hmm.
and thin, and I love you. You may not always like me. You may not like the decisions that I make. You may all of those things, but I'm always going to love you and respect you.
Hmm.
And that's what they have to feel before you can do any of the other stuff. So if you're trying to
Absolutely.
focus on getting them to college, it's not going to happen unless you have a relationship. If you're trying to get them to get a job, to do their chores, it's
Hmm.
not happening until there's that respect factor and they can trust you.
Same thing goes for my niece was here for about a year, and her mom allowed her to be sexually active at a very young age, like 10,
Allow.
11. So we got her at 13, and it was my husband's very old school. He might be a gay black man, but he's very like 56-year-old black Pete preacher. Poor girl. Like I was like, girl, let her wear some booty shorts and a crop top every once in a while. He was like, either a crop top, high waisted. No, I don't want to see no skin. I was like, bro, like it ain't that serious. But then what I understood what he was saying was he wanted to teach her some type of structure, so then she understood herself. And I actually learned this because we were stopped one day. We were at the Goodwill looking for some clothes, and this lady comes and she goes, "Do you need help?" To my niece, she goes, "Do you need help?" And my niece was like, "What?" And my husband was like, "Don't talk to her. Why are you talking to our minor child?" And she was like, "She's being trafficked by you guys." To be fair, that was one of the days that my husband just like gave up on arguing and was like, "Wear what you want." And she was wearing like a bustier with some short shorts, and I was just like, but the thing was, we had been telling her for weeks, like, babes, we want you to be in control of your body. We want you to be in control of what you wear, but you also have to understand you're a young black woman. Society will see you different. They would treat you differently, and your first impression is your best. Like we're trying to teach her all the things. And I also said, I said, and they also might get the different. You look grown. They might get the different. We got streetwalkers out here, and y'all looking similar. Like they might get the wrong idea. So when the police got called, we had to show them our guardianship papers. Oh, she wouldn't even, she followed us to our car. She called the police and told them that we are human trafficking. Like she really thought that she was saving a child. And the police
Is
came, and not only was like, she got taught two lessons in one day. First lesson, that was her first time interacting with police like that. And she saw her uncle and I, and she was like, Uncle Carlos, like, why did you get so respectful to him? I was like, because we are black and we live in Arizona. Yes, because she knows me. Like, I'm very much like, bitch, what? I was like, no, yes, sir, no,
yes,
sir.
sir.
Here's this. I said directly, I told her, I was like, keep your hands out of your pocket, look them directly in their eyes, answer their correct questions. Don't give them no information they did not ask you. Just answer yes, no questions, or look at me if you need something. And that day, the police talked to her, and she was like, these are my uncles, like this and that. And they let us go. And in the car, she was like, so I get what you guys were saying about how I present myself. And after that day, we did not have one issue with her.
Life is
And
going to be their best teacher.
she learned, and then she respected that, because I think I'm kind of grateful, because it would have probably been more weeks and months of relationship building, but that one interaction literally made her trust everything that we were saying, at least about the clothes stuff, because she saw it. She saw the cause and effect and what we were trying to prevent.
And you don't throw it in her face after that, right? After
No.
that, then you help them weave it together,
So after
right? Like,
that,
mhm.
what I would do is, because I would say, all right, so you already know that experience. So when we go shopping, she would show me everything, and I was like, what do you think would be appropriate? And I just left it up to her, and she would be like, yeah, she's like, this is cute, but like only like in the house cute or with family cute. I can't wear it.
There we go,
And
because
I
there's
was
a
like, that,
difference. I
yep.
have house clothes and I have outside clothes. There's a
And she
difference.
would show me, and
I love
she
that.
learned, and she was like, this is cute, but and then then once she started doing that, I was like, now we got to look. And she was like, she kept getting sheen, sheen, sheen. I was like, baby, don't waste your money on that. We're thrift shopping. Go get you some old school clothes that are going to be quality, right? And it was so much growth when she would come home and she was like, Uncle, this is a house appropriate, this is school appropriate, this is like go out with friends appropriate. And every time afterwards I would see her outfits and the outfits that I would like, I would say, hey love, take a look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself if you feel comfortable and if you think that's
That's it.
appropriate. If you think not, I would change my outfit. If you think so, let's go. And there were days where she would look and she like, this is not appropriate for where we're going. Because I was like, yeah, girl, we're going to a 4-star restaurant. Why are you? But I learned that I couldn't just force her to do it. It had to be her choice.
Yep. And
She
that's
had
why I
to
like
make the
working with
choice.
teenagers. That's why I like working with teenagers. Most people, they don't want to work with teenagers because they're hardened. They give you resistance, right? Like they know everything. We know, right? And so the idea is that you show up in a way and you give them options, you give them choices, you talk it through. I'm designing a program right now because I'm getting ready to do a tour of talks with girls groups.
Mm,
And I remember it's called Becoming Her.
I love that.
And it's really about how do you want to feel when you walk into any room? Right? You were talking about the imposter syndrome. How do you feel when you want to walk into any room? How do you want people to perceive you? How do you want to speak? How do you want to look? How do you want to feel? Envision that woman and every day work towards being her.
Hmm.
Right? And it's that idea is like, and if you've never seen it, now you have to seek it. I
Yeah.
remember a friend and I, shout out to Lakeisha, we were in high school, we were in ninth grade, didn't know anything, and her mother is polished. And we were talking about the kind of woman that we wanted to be. We went to the library and got books. How to become an elegant woman. I mean, it was just it was funny and silly, but it was the start of becoming her. I would see women that had a certain kind of air when they walked into the room, a certain kind of confidence, a certain kind of swag. And I'm like, I like that. I like their humility. I love really soft spoken, like kind women because I am not soft spoken at all, but I admire that so much from other women who really are, but can still command a room. And so if I'm like looking at you and you're talking like that, I am just enamored by it. So I would pick these things from women that I loved and enjoyed, and I became her.
I
Right.
love
And so
that.
the woman that you see today was shy when I was 8 years old. You couldn't get me to say anything. Honey, I would read my book and I would do my work and I would go sit down. I didn't have a lot of friends. I still don't today. I got enough friends. But I would just be so closed off and quiet into myself. And that is not the woman I am today because I saw it in people that they showed up with energy and they had this light about them. Shine your light, right?
Shine your
And
light.
so that's what it was. And I built this person that did you see before me. And people were like, well, you shouldn't really be changing yourself. And I'm like, but these are all things that I wanted to do.
Yep.
You have to be intentional about your actions. You have to be intentional about how you show up to places. So I love that example. Sometimes you have to learn by example. And you're there not to ridicule them. Well, I
Nope.
told you you shouldn't have been walking around with them booty shorts on. It's like, see, baby girl, don't you like that response?
Yep. And I didn't even after the police thing, we didn't even say anything. I was like, "What's for
Yeah,
lunch?" And she was
right.
expecting us to be like yelling, and I was just like, "What are we having for lunch?" And then after like 10 minutes, she was like, "So I think I understand why." Because I wasn't even, girl. Did you, either you picked it up or you didn't. She picked it up. I was like,
Because this
"Yeah,
is
that's
clear and in your face, right?
mhm,
So
absolutely."
I love working with teens and young adults who are
That's
like right on the edge of independence.
because
They
that's the
still need
most
guidance.
important age. That's
Yes.
the most important age because sure, everyone when you think of kids in need, everyone's thinking the babies, the toddlers, the nine, and not saying that they don't, but there are so many people that are for them and have that concern for them. So many people don't want to bother with teenagers, especially teenagers that aren't related or have been through trauma or they have to work a whole lot with, right? And those are the but to me, I'm like, those are the people that are about to enter society. Like they're gonna be your neighbors, your employees, like, and you like these are the kids that we need to prepare right here. And I can understand the frustration, but they need us. Like they really do need secure, inspirational people that'll really take the time and listen to them. So what other type of programs? I know you were talking about her program. What other type of programs or ideas can you give to adults working with external childcare kids?
Yeah, so, my day job, I am a nonprofit management consultant, right? And so I take these organizations, my bread and butter is young people and youth organizations, but I really work with any nonprofit. But if you're a nonprofit organization that works with young people, it's A, coming in to make sure that your programs are in alignment. Can you
Hmm.
get funding for what it is that you say you're going to do? But like the young lady on your comment in Instagram, I commented on that. And I said that I think that she was disgusting for even
That was
saying
that was
that. That was me.
that was you.
And so she needs training. She made that situation about that child about her. Ain't
Mhm.
nobody gonna disrespect me. Girl, nobody cares, right? It's not about you in the moment. And I don't think people understand that when you foster, you are giving up of yourself. It's just like your birth child,
Mhm.
right? I'm not closing the doors on my birth child. You can be disrespectful. I'm gonna call you on. We're gonna come together and we're gonna fix the problem. And then we're going to go to sleep and start again the next day and fight a new
Mhm.
fight. But how do you train adults, support people for young people who are, whether they're in foster care or underserved populations in general? There's a lot of people who aren't formally in foster care who need those support
Well,
services.
the thing is, what I've noticed, because I work with adoptive and foster parents, that's my bread and butter, is taking the bad ones and trying to give them education. The one thing that I require when I work with adoptive and foster parents is y'all have to unpack your trauma first with the therapist. So before you come to me, I can't train you on anything that you haven't healed from your childhood. So you gonna have to go see a licensed therapist or a psychologist yourself. Work with them, understand your triggers, understand your past, and then you will be able to start to understand and educate yourself on how, because like you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't even know how to work with your own triggers and trauma, how are you going to teach a child how to work with theirs? And the issue with that is a lot of folks don't realize is that how triggering it is. Like for me when my niece was here, it was so hard. I was so thankful that I had access to resources and people and professionals, because it was so hard seeing her do the exact same behaviors as I did. It was excruciating because I felt her on a level that I don't even think my husband felt. Like the tantrums that we would see, I understood why she was doing it. But then as the adult who's trying to raise her, I now have to figure out like, hey, how do I calm you down? How do I get you to understand that this is not the correct way to get your voice over or to get your light out, right? Or even your frustration. But it was really, really difficult seeing that. So with foster parents, if you haven't done your own trauma healing, a child will trigger you. And I'm gonna be honest, if a child spits in your face and say F you bitch and kiss a hole in your wall, you know how much patience? Because that's the type of things that are gonna happen. Right? Punching holes, slashing tires, breaking your car window. These are the things that will happen. If you have been raised in a household where your mama beat the fuck out of you for even looking at her wrong, guess what you're gonna do? It will be almost instinctively, boom. You got to unpack that trauma from your own
Yep.
childhood,
Yep.
right? Because I work with a lot of parents who are like, man, Carlos, I didn't even mean to hit them. I was like, I know, girl, but you didn't
And
unpack
I
your
feel,
trauma.
and that's the thing is, I think one of the questions is, why are you doing this in the first place? Because a lot of people who want to foster, it's really about them, right?
They hate it when I say that, but
Yeah.
there's some money in it.
And it's also a personal, well, and the people who put it
And
all
it's
over the
in the
internet
church,
too.
especially if they're religious. It's either money or they're doing it for praise through community or church. That's what I've seen.
Their own selfish needs. I mean, and desires and wants, and not necessarily for what the child needs, because you have to have space to take care of that child. You've got to go to the doctor a million times, right? The system says you got to take them to checkups every week,
Hmm.
but also anticipate the call from the school.
Hmm.
Anticipate it and make sure you can't work a regular 9 to 5 or be on call when you are dealing with people who are suffering in their own bodies and in their lives.
It's something that me and my husband we benefit that we both work from home. So that was been a blessing. When my niece was here, one thing that we saw that helped, we showed up as a team the entire time. When school called multiple times a week, guess who walked up there? Both of us.
Both of us.
Calm, because we're going to give you the same thing that we give you at home here at school, and that's going to be support, right? And it shows consistency, right? You're going to, hey, whatever you need, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be patient, and it's about showing up. A lot of parents don't even want to get a phone call, or you get in trouble just for the phone call. No, the phone call I'd rather have a phone call than have them say she didn't hurt somebody or somebody didn't hurt her or something didn't happen. Phone calls
She's
are
grown
usually
up,
preventative for
right?
worse behavior in the future. And if
Right.
you keep getting phone calls, then that just means that you have to keep doing a little bit of work and then work with the school. A lot of folks also take your ass down to the motherfucking schoolhouse, because I'm tired of parents not going down to the schoolhouse. Go down there. They have resources. The
But
school,
they're intimidated themselves.
listen, because our You remind me of Miss Jack. That was my niece's school counselor. She had her PhD in like Scott's child psychology, and she was so great. Her office was just like you explained. It was big, it was open, it was calm. She always had a calming demeanor, even for me. Like she put me in line. I was like, "Yes, Miss Jack." She's like, "Sit straight, straight up." Like, yes, Miss Jack. And we would go like twice a week, 3 times a week, and there would be an issue. And she was always consistent. She was always asking. And then the thing is, she was like, "Do y'all need any resources outside the school? I have friends." She was like, "We can give you public." And I'm kind of like, I don't want to get into any type of like public resources because that means you got to be part of a system. And I'm really just trying to keep her out of that. And she's like, "No, Carlos, I have girlfriends that I went to school with. My sorority sisters are, and everybody got something. They got a program, a
Yep.
nonprofit,
Yep.
agency." She's like, "I have resources that are outside of this public system." And that's the key. Y'all have resources. So go into the school and ask for resources. Ask them for help. It's okay to say, "Hey, I don't," there were times where I was like, "Miss Jack, I don't know what I'm doing." And she's like, "Carlos, you do know what you're doing because you asked me that." She's like,
Mhm.
"You ask people who think that they know what they're doing are the ones that actually don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing."
Yeah.
It's the parent, because I never parented before. I got a 13-year-old girl just dropped in my lap. And I was like, "Girl, I don't even know if I'm doing any of this right." She's like, "You guys are doing
None of us
great."
do.
That's what she
You see those little cute boys behind me? None of us
said.
know it.
Oh, look how cute they are. I don't know. I just feel like with parents though, like when y'all have them, you just get like, and that was another thing too. I was talking to Miss Jax about. I was like, is it different when you raise them and you see them like they? Because it was so hard sometimes that she's just sitting there, "Fuck you, Uncle." And I was like, dang, I don't even have any like good memories to pull back on. I tried to like go back when she was a toddler. You used to be such a nice toddler. But I was
But
asking
think
parents,
about
do you guys pull back on those emotional memories of like, man, like I birthed you and you grew up, and as they're getting older and getting more aggressive, because kids be kids, do you pull back on there, or is it just the same? It's just like, hey, I'm gonna love you still regardless.
think about this. Look at our own experiences. Our own experiences meant that the drugs were more important than our
Mm,
parents having a relationship with us, right? No matter how little and cute and phenomenal we were
that's
as
a good point of
babies,
view.
there was life happening around them. And I always try to remember that I am a whole person prior to becoming a mom,
Mm,
right? I have interests and desires and likes and things that I'm interested in prior to being a mother is just a sliver of who I am. And I try to remember that. And so, yeah, no, I mean, the boys make mistakes and, I do all that I can. I hope that they always feel loved. I want, when I leave this world, I want them to know that nobody loved them more. Because people will say, "Oh, you spoiled them." And I'm like, "I'm their mom. Who else in the world is going to do it?"
spoil them,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? But they're respectful. They work hard. Like, what are the character traits that you want to see in your children? And the same thing with your niece. And now you're just coming, behind the curve because she's already developed. And at that age, it's just a lot harder. They have opinions, they have thoughts, they have independence that you can't control. If she wanted to walk out that house, she could,
Hmm.
right? I've only got a few more years left before they start walking out of my house.
Listen.
But you have to make sure that you have equipped them with good choices and decision making. And a lot of parents, and I'm no parent expert at all, but if you don't teach them how to make choices when they're 3, 4, 5, and 6, how is it supposed to turn on when they become 14, 15, 16?
Hmm.
Something as simple as, well, do you want to take your bath before dinner or after dinner? Now that they got to think about it. If I take it before dinner, I'm going to be dirty, you know?
And the thing, so my niece grew up having no structure, like zero. Mom didn't, she could do literally anything she wanted. When she got here, she told us, she's like, "I really like having a schedule. I really like knowing what I'm going to do." And like, I'm because of my trauma, we know what we're going to eat all week, Monday through Friday. I already have a whole schedule of dinners. We have a whole family calendar of appointments, where we're going to be, what we're going to do, adventures, all of these things. And I was like, maybe is this too much for her? She's like, "No, like, Uncle, I really, really like it." But then
They
there were
thrive.
times where she liked the structure of the schedule, but she didn't like the structure of rules. She didn't like, so like she wanted structure so bad. And I think that that's something to say, like, when they were young, when their children are younger and they don't get that structure, they don't get that guidance, then one or two things can happen. They're going to always try to seek that out, and if you don't give it to them, they're going to seek it out through their friends or through schools or through gangs or through online weird groups, right? That's why we have a lot, especially right now, the Adoption to red pill pipeline is really weird. We're seeing a lot of foster and adopted youth become, like the red pill guys. They're like
Mhm.
like they hate women, they hate, like, there's a pipeline. And I'm just like, because they're looking for family and support, and these people are offering family and support, and you guys are not. So you have to offer family support and consistency and structure in your homes, because otherwise these kids are going to find it somewhere else. And when they
It
find it somewhere else, it's probably not going to be great.
and it's not, what kids thrive in structured spaces, right? That's clear. But I think of this as like a leadership approach. As a leader, I want to accomplish certain things in my team, at my workplace, at my home, whatever. These are the things that need to be accomplished. But I'm going to give you the creative authorship to do with it as you please, as long as we arrive at what the expectations are. Because as teenagers, they want to figure it out themselves. They don't want to
Hmm.
be told line by line, what do I do and how do I do it? If they're being handheld like that, that's going to be crippling to them later on in life. But to
Absolutely.
give them this is the direction. I want you to have creative autonomy to get there however you see fit. Here are some boundaries, right? Here's some things to think about and to consider as you're designing your plan and how you're going to. That's how you develop navigational skills in teenagers, because when they become adults, they struggle with it.
I also think that that's how you create conversations. So one thing that I learned in one of my parenting courses that I took when I had my niece was, they said, don't overdo your rules. Make them simple. So then even if it's like, well, what if something's not covered? She goes, then that's how you can have a conversation. So we had like three basic rules: wake up on time, do your homework, no cursing and disrespecting. Other than that, really no rules. So
Yeah.
then she would be like, "Can I do this?" And she's like, "Is this against the rule?" And I was like, "Well, no, that's not against any of the rules. But do you think that that's appropriate to do?" So then it creates a conversation. So just because if I have to create rules for everything, I'm not giving you any opportunities to make any mistakes, to learn, or even have a conversation, right? And then we taught her the biggest thing was negotiation. That was a big word in our house. She would want to do something. Her uncle would say no, and I would say, "Did you negotiate with him?" And she was like, "Well, he said no." And I said, "Okay, did you ask him if it's negotiable?" And she's like, "No, but if a no is a no." And I was like, "A no is just an answer, which is an answer, but you can also say, is there any room for negotiation?" And if he says no, then I was like, then that's your final answer. If you somebody say there's no room, but most of the times there was room for negotiation. And she would ask, and he was like, "Yeah, we can negotiate." And I think that's another thing. Yes, no is a complete answer, but then teaching kids just straight no and listen to my straight no, I also don't think that that's always beneficial, because you should always be questioning and always be asking and
Listen,
just and always looking for a different alternative.
my 6-year-old will, I mean, I'm teaching it's a lot for me to deal with, right? Because he's consistently talking and trying to figure out how to navigate in his own little world. But those are skills that are going to be valuable for him as he navigates life by himself, right?
Absolutely.
It's like I want people think I'm just I tell him, I'm saying, oh, we were somewhere, well, we were at Panera Bread the other day and he needed something. And I said, "You see that gentleman with the hat? Go ask him for whatever you need." And he goes on over there. So he's very comfortable with speaking with people. We don't do that a lot with our young people. We either do it for them, because, and then especially don't be a savior. Oh, I'm going to get this kid that's been through so much. I'm going to do everything for them. That's not doing, I mean, that's crippling them.
And that
And
goes
so
with everything in
every,
life. Chances, people are crazy. They're like, "Are you crazy? Why would you open up a bank account for a 13-year-old?" She had American Express Platinum card, and I was like, "Because I'm teaching her,"
yeah, why not?
and I want her to make a mistake on that card
Yeah.
because I can actually show her how this is going to work.
A couple of dollars on Roblox ain't going to hurt nobody.
She put $632.
You got it, Carlos.
I did. But she was working off that 632. I said, "Oh, you only get
Yes.
$50 a week on allowance, so you just ate up about 3 months of allowance. Or you can work it off."
Yep.
Or
Those
you
are
can
natural
work it.
consequences, right? And they have to learn. And I
She
always
didn't buy
joke,
no more. She was like, "I'm putting myself on a Robux budget." I said, "That sounds like a good
good. That's
idea."
it. Because the children have to be able to make mistakes while they have a safety net. And a lot of times, foster youth don't have a safety
Safety
net.
net.
So
Nope.
those mistakes that they make are detrimental to their lives. And they just find themselves in a hole, unable to get out of it. And then if you also cannot be resourceful, so we've got to give our babies something. Have them be resourceful, like do not coddle, teach with
Hmm.
love, correct with love, but you got to give them the opportunities to figure out how they navigate the world, how they see themselves in this world, and how they navigate it. So All of these things are a great conversation. And again, I'm not no parent expert. I'm going through my own stuff with my own little ones,
No, but
but
I
all
mean,
of it
is anyone
relates.
a parent expert? Like, because there's no expertise in parenting. Everybody's just doing what they can and learning as they go. That's
And then same thing, and I would say that that would be my last thing regarding like teens is that there are definitely proven resources and tasks and things that we can do. But if you can't yourself be humble and apologize for the mistakes that you've made, there's been times I remember my baby, she came into the room late for a college prep class that I was teaching of some sort. And I was like, ooh, look at the time, I embarrassed her. And so she stormed out, and I had no idea why she had a bad day. And my comment that usually would have been taken as a very playful comment was just like over just too much for her to handle. Right. And so that became an opportunity for us to grow closer in our relationship because I had to recognize that she came full of from a full day of school. Right. And she had her own feelings. And I had to apologize for stepping and not being considerate of her feelings and how she felt in front of her peers. So if you can't apologize to a young person, to another person, and show humility and that we're in this together because I don't know everything.
hmm
I need you to teach me. I need you to set your expectations and your boundaries for me as well. Then we can't build relationship before we get to the rigor. We have to be
absolutely.
able to know that we're going to bounce back from
And
whatever
you
we go through.
and you really lead and teach by example. So if you can't apologize, why would they ever? You didn't teach them the example, right? You
If
just
you don't say I love you,
hmm
if you don't
hmm
hug them,
It's like I see parents when they make a mistake, they just get mad and they just like ignore it or act like
right,
it didn't happen. And I'm like, no, have a conversation. Say, hey, I messed up. I made a
right,
mistake. Like that was
right.
me. And now let's go get some ice cream or
Hello,
something. Let's go
strawberry.
do something. Well, Dr. Cree, thank you so much for coming on. I love your energy. I love your story. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing your story and about your experience going through kinship care and with your family. There is a question that I like to ask everyone at the end of the show. And that question is, what's one piece of advice that you would give a child that's in a similar situation as you were? What's one piece of advice you would give them?
It always goes back to just being confident in who you are and who you want to be. And don't find the people to support that vision. You can't do it alone. No one in this world is successful alone. And so find your people, find your tribe, find your support, people who are going to lift you up when you feel down, people who are going to hug you when you need that support. So there may have been like people have, the most important people in your life have wronged you, right? Whether it's your mother, your father, whomever it was. But don't give up on everybody. Right? Like I know it's easier said than done, but trust that there are good people out there who care about you and want to do for you. You just have to find them.
Absolutely. Trust but verify. Okay. Don't be trusting everybody. Trust
Don't
but
just jump
verify.
in. You know what? Test them, right? Give them a little bit of. If they say, "I'm going to bring you a bag of chips," the next day. Okay, well, did they actually bring me a bag of chips? I can't trust them. Give them little tests before you really dive in. Go see them consistently and see how they receive you. Do they say
Absolutely.
hello? Do they make time for you when you walk into their office or you pick up the phone? Right? Those things matter.
And I'm gonna add on to her advice, y'all, a little bit. I never do this. I'm gonna add on. Let them know your standards and boundaries when you first meet them. And I've learned as an adult, making friends as an adult, that works so much better than me reacting to something that you did that triggered me. Like when I meet friends, I'm like, hey guys, so I grew up in foster care. Like you said before, it's okay to share. I grew up in foster care and I was abandoned a lot. I don't like people who no show. Can you give me 24? If we plan anything, I need 24 to 48 hours and not a text. You need to call me, so I need to hear your voice. Otherwise, we will have an issue. And because I'm going to invest time and energy into this relationship, I'd rather know now if that's something that you can't do.
Carlos, I love
Let
that.
me know right now.
I love that. I need to do more of that because otherwise I don't have any friends, right?
That's what happened. I kept losing friends because I'm just like, but I'm like, well, she doesn't know that canceling on you is like the worst thing ever in the world. Like my friends know, like if you're a friend of mine, canceling, being late, be 30 minutes late. Be late in any early is on time is late, and if you're late, the door is closed.
Listen, I love people. I get energy from people, and I love it. But I can't. There's certain boundaries that I have, and I like that approach.
Tell them first. Yep, tell them right up front. It's like it's like dating. I see building friendships like dating. You on that first date. I like this. I don't like this. This is what my expectation is. This is where I see my future with you. That's what I do with
Seriously,
my
I'm
friends.
looking for friends, right? Like, I'm looking for friends. Are you available to be a friend?
Because I'm not finna waste my time. And then because I built so many great friendships over like 2-3 years, and turns out we didn't do the work. So a little bit then it imploded the whole, and I just wasted 3 years. Right?
Do all that work, Carlos. Listen, this is a different podcast because I don't have it. I need it to be organic, right? And so I will seek and I will make myself available and I will create opportunities. And if it just doesn't gel, it doesn't gel.
Yeah.
Right? Like I really want it to be organic. And I always talk about authenticity. If I have to show up as a different person in order for you to receive me, that's not the place I'm supposed to be in.
Exactly. But I think that's the beauty of it. If that doesn't sound like you, and I've had friends be like, hey, listen, Carlos, I'm late like my best friend Zena. I met her on this podcast. No, my best friend Zena. I met her on episode 30. I met her literally how I met you. She just happens to live in my city. So afterwards, I was like, girl, you're real cool. Like, and you live in Phoenix. Like, let's kick it. So then we went, and at first meeting, I was like, yo, listen, like, because we already done the podcast, so she already knows my story. So I was like, I don't like being abandoned. I don't like. She's like, Carlos, I'm gonna let you know I'm late all the time. I'm gonna be late all the time.
Period.
She goes, I'm
At
gonna do my
least 10
best with you, but I'm late. And then we've been friends for like 2.5 years. She is late every time.
But she told you.
She told me. And I had to accept it or not, right? Like, so it's called expectations and boundaries. She told me, she's like, listen, I understand you got a problem with that, but I have a problem with being on time.
But you had the thing, it gave you the opportunity to say, I can deal with that because you told me. And that's the other thing is I'm big on is like integrity. Move with integrity. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be 10, 15 minutes late if we're going out someplace.
And now she takes advantage of it. So her birthday was a couple weeks ago. She was getting a silk press, and I told her, because I got my silk press, that late when I had got mine the day when I said, girl, her hair is twice as long as mine. I said, get yours done the day before. They're not going to finish it on time the same day. Or she didn't listen to me. She got hers started the same day. We're on the way to the restaurant, and it's like one of these fancy restaurants. They had entrees that were like $150 just for like one little steak. It was very fancy. They charge you if you don't show up on time. So we're showing up. It was like, I think reservation's like 5 o'clock. I'm getting there like 4:40. 4:35, 4:40. She calls me. She's like, hey, Carlos, I know you're there. I'm going to be an hour late.
Not an hour. Not an hour. See,
she ended up being like 45 minutes late to her own birthday party. But I knew, like, I expected that from her because that's just who she is. And she's like, I'm not worried. I was like, but your reservation? She's like, oh, no. I already put your name on my reservation because I knew you were going to be there before me. I was like, oh, so you already knew I was going to beat you to the reservation.
Listen, can you move that reservation up? You know, an hour is a long time. But no, I appreciate that. You know, relationships are work. Relationships are work. They don't just happen overnight. You have to tend to them. You have to have the energy for them. You have to nurture them. And that's the same thing for young people. Is they too have to show up in a certain way in order if they want to create that relationship with that caring adult.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Cree, do you have any events going on? Anything you want to promote? Social media?
Yes.
Anything?
So I have this wonderful. Okay, this is amazing. When I was a teenager and I was going through all my fields, I was 14 and I read this book, Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul. Have you heard of it?
Well, I've read. Well, they have a whole series. I've read Chicken Noodle Soup for the African American Soul. I've read that one.
See, I don't know if that one was out when I was reading, but it was a teenage soul, and that book really just changed my life. It gave me perspective. So I'm doing a little bit of a spin on that kind of energy, and I'm doing a book series on African American stories for girls in particular. So I am doing a project, and I have a call for contributors for the book project. So if you can go to my Instagram at I am Dr. Cree, DRCRE, I am DRCRE, and you'll see a link in my bio for you to contribute your story. No story is too small. Any story that really has changed your life. I've shared a lot of them here today. Anything that has made you think differently or walk differently or move differently. What would you want to tell a younger version of yourself, you know, if you could? And so that's what the story project is all about, is the stories we bear, the stories we tell. And so I want folks to contribute to that. That's going to be super powerful for a young girl, you know, ages 9 to 21. I'm doing a couple of different versions of it. You know, it's going to be so dope.
You should go back to the old episodes because most of the people who've been on the show, I have their social media linked because there are some amazing women who've shared their experiences. And they've already comfortable with sharing it, and then they can now share it. So I would go back through the old episodes and follow up with them because they have some amazing experiences, and it's like from positive to negative to like awe inspiring to like just jaw dropping. So, and I love this
Yeah.
project. I love that idea.
It's gonna be so dope. I mean, I thought of myself as a child being very reflective of what was going on, and I don't think everybody has been given that gift. So this is
Mm.
going to be a space that gives you an opportunity to think about your own experiences and maybe how they relate. So I'm really excited about it and hope that you all will consider contributing.
I love that, y'all. So y'all heard her. What is the website again?
My website is www.imdrcree.com and my Instagram is IamDrCree.
Alrighty, y'all. Make sure I will also put those in the captions of this show, and also in all the links when I post it on social media. So thank you so much, Dr. Cree, for joining us and taking
This was
time
fun.
and sharing your light and energy and smile and laughter with me. I had a lot of fun. You had a lot of fun. I got some ideas too. Also, if you need some help, because if you need some help on the publishing end, I got some connections. I got
Let's do
resources.
it.
I got the insider info.
Let's do it.
No, listen, it's not easy. It's not easy publishing. But if you go through a publisher, or if you do self-publishing, or if you do print on demand, like there's so many different options. You just got to see what best fits for you. So I can definitely help you with that. And I'm excited to hear your book.
Yes.
I'm excited to hear
This
this
is going to be
series.
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've got so many ideas here that I'm working through. So I just appreciate the space. I knew this was going to be a blast, and you did not disappoint. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And Lightshiners, like I say every week, go out there, shine your light, because you never know who you might inspire. You never know who might see you on social media or pick up your book or just talk to you on the street. Go out there, shine your light, and you never know who you can inspire, and just be a little dim light of inspiration for them. So, like I say every week, always shine your light, and I will talk to you guys next week. Awesome. That was great, Dr. Cree.